It's showtime.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
You know, the right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny.
Washington is fundamentally corrupt. There are more words in the IRS code than there are in the Bible.
You are live.
Made in America, heard round the world. You're listening to Blunt Force Truth. I'm Chuck Woolery, along with my co-host today, Rusty Humphreys.
Just for today.
Who is in, where are you?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh, in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. Oh, by the way,
yeah,
I'm watching CNN yesterday, and everybody says, why do you do that? Because I want to see what they're doing. And so Jake Tapper's on with Maisie, I guess her name's Ono, Maisie Ono, Congresswoman.
Who's that? Not Yoko.
No, not Yoko Ono. And I may have the last name incorrect. It's possible. It may be Hirono or something like that. But anyway, she's on with Jake Tapper, and she's solved the border crisis. She knows exactly how to do it. And here's her solution, and Jake Tapper never pushed back once.
Okay.
She said the problem is that we're cutting off all this money to all these Central American countries. We need to send them more money. And then Trump needs to go in there and create jobs for, in Central America and El Salvador and Nicaragua and all of these other places. So it's up to Trump to go. He's done such a great job creating jobs here. He needs to go create jobs in those countries, and that'll solve the problem. And I thought, what an idiot! I've got a better solution since we're stuck in Never Never Land, on the border, and that's this. I know that the Obama administration used to take all of these illegals and dump them into red states all around the country by busing them into red states, right?
Right.
So why doesn't the Trump administration just get a couple of ships and send them all to Hawaii and say, look, you guys are going to go to a tropical paradise, and this is where you're going to, and you're still in the United States, so you get everything you wanted, and you get to go to Hawaii and live there on about 4 or 5 different islands. Pick your island, we'll send you there, and then see how that works out.
I like that.
You know what? It's not a bad idea.
It's not. Well, it's one of these things where I don't understand. And Chuck, you lived in Hollywood. You understand these leftists better than most.
No, I don't.
Well, you don't?
No, I mean, I understand them like any other leftists. I mean, they're all the same. But go ahead.
No, I just don't. I don't. I used to be very good at taking a step back, trying to understand the other person,
right,
and then being able to communicate with them, saying, "Okay, I can disagree, but I understand." Excuse me, I understand where you're coming from.
No,
I'm
don't.
Out now. It's almost like, when the music is too loud, you're getting too old. Maybe that's what it is. When the politics too crazy, you're getting too old. I don't get it.
No, I don't think this is a generational thing because it's been going on for generations. I mean,
you don't think it's worse today than it's been?
No. It's just more vocal. It's always been this way. I mean, look, do you remember back in the 50s? I remember in the 50s when they were going after communists in Hollywood, and it was like, and they were there. There was no question about it. But it was like bridge clubs around Hollywood. I mean, seriously. Today, the Democrats are talking about Russia interfering with our elections, and yet it seems like Russians are everywhere. I mean, there's a red menace all over America. They're in our government. They're Marxist communists, what they are, but they're in our government. They're in, local politics. They're in media. They're everywhere. And they seem to refuse to acknowledge that, but they will talk about Trump, talking to the head diplomat from the Soviet Union, or not from Soviet Union, but from Russia.
Right.
I mean, it's insane, just like they always are. Number one, Hollywood is probably the most misinformed and uninformed group of people on the planet who have the loudest voice because of what they do. They're celebrities, and everybody listens to them to a certain extent. And so they have a big voice and a big platform, but they have no information. They don't know anything. They're just sheep. They go along with whatever the Democrats and the mainstream media say. If you watch MSNBC and you watch CNN, you read the New York Times or the Washington Post, if that's where you get your information, you don't know anything,
right? Because
they don't tell you anything.
Well, it's intellectually lazy, most of it, isn't it?
Well, no, it's worse than that. It's total misinformation. It's the misuse of freedom of the press. It's misinforming the public, not informing them. So when you depend on that, and then for word of mouth from your, fellow actors and actresses and producers and directors around the community to inform you as to what you're supposed to think, you have no chance. I mean, you really don't. And I understand how people are against, Alec Baldwin and all these kind of people. There are a lot of people they admire as actors, and I do too, but they hate their politics. So these people are at war with us. They've always been there. I had a saying when I was in Hollywood that I never outwardly expressed, but it was what I felt, what I knew, and that was, if Hollywood was for it, I was against it. And I realized very early on that it was frustrating for me, but at the same time, it was just, it's the only way you could live in that community and get along with yourself, much less other people. Yeah, because they were wrong 100% of the time.
Right. I want to go to that for a second. We got a lot of other politics and things, but I think a lot of people watch Blunt Force Truth with Chuck Woolery and Mark Young. And by the way, if you're watching live on Twitter right now, or Facebook, or The Range, which is a brand new TV network that we're on, Chuck, please comment and share. Would you please let us know who you are, where you're deplorable from? We'd like to say hi. But I think
home on the range.
I think a lot of people, Chuck, know Chuck Woolery is the nicest guy on TV.
Well, I was.
Right? I mean, that's what you were. That's what you were known as, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's how you felt, but when Chuck Woolery came on,
I've always been respectful and nice to people, and a lot of my audience was a black audience, and I treated them with the same respect I treated everybody with.
It was a black audience.
Yeah, and I had fun. I mean, Love Connection had a huge black audience.
Really?
Yeah, and so they're very disappointed in me. What happened to you? And nothing happened to me.
That's the question. I mean, you're the nicest guy in the world. All of a sudden, you're coming on this, and now you're curmudgeon-y Chuck Woolery.
Well, it's because I have an opinion that they disagree with, so they're extremely disappointed in me.
Are
they just don't understand how I can possibly be that way, and how all of a sudden I turned into this, what they consider a nasty guy. Unfortunately, but that's life. I knew that was going to happen the day I decided that I was going to make the first video for YouTube. I knew that. And I told Mark that. I said, I'm going to go do this, but I tell you what, I'm going to lose half my audience overnight. And it's happened.
It has?
So, well, it's very difficult. When you make a stand that is against the majority of the people that you live amongst, then you're going to get beat up by it. And I don't mind. I mean, I really don't. Number one, I don't live there anymore. I don't have to deal with them anymore. I mean, look, I remember waking up in Cedars-Sinai after a 4-way bypass, and I'm in ICU, I guess, or whatever it is. I'm in the recovery room and just waking up and shivering and everything else because I've been under anesthetic for all that time. And I look out the window of the door, and looking in the window of the door, the first two people that came to see me, because they were concerned about me and liked me. And it was Bruce Jenner and Kris Jenner.
Huh.
And, we've been friends for a long, long time. Now, I didn't know about Bruce, and I never did know about it. It was always a surprise to me. But we haven't talked for years since he's made this decision. I mean, it's a perfect example of how you just break away. It's funny that in Los Angeles, and maybe it's like this in big cities, but in L.A., relationships are very, very fragile and very temporary, and they don't last very long because you may have an investment in people and like them and like to be around them and play with them and do all the stuff that you do. But quite frankly, it's what have you done for me lately?
Right.
It's very political. And so if you don't agree with them, then you're off the radar, and that's the way it goes. I mean, I know all those kids. I've known Kim since she was like a little girl, little bitty girl. I've known the Hiltons, Rick and his wife, Kathy. I've known them since forever, when Paris was a little girl running around looking for a ferret.
Hey, could you hook me up? I'm kidding.
No. But I mean, these people were all really close friends of mine. I've been to their home. They've been to my home. We belonged to some of the same clubs. We played together. We ran around together. But we don't really talk to each other anymore.
Well, and what a lot of people don't remember, and I was friends with Bruce too, not as close as you, but we talked a couple times a month, every month for a year or two. And man, I had no idea. And super conservative, great guy, right?
I always really liked Bruce. We had a great time together. I mean, I have no idea who Caitlyn Jenner is. I can't even identify with that.
Well,
but I guess that's my problem. But the way I deal with it is, he's Bruce. He's always going to be Bruce to me. He can't transition all of a sudden for me, and so I'm sure that's
for
me
a problem. For me, I remember. I don't know about you. When I first saw it, I saw on National Enquirer or something, Bruce Jenner's going to change. And it was like, oh, this is funny. I got to call him and give him some crap. Yeah. So I call and the phone number's changed. Doo-doo-doo. Well, that's odd. Well, let me call the house. Hello? Hey, is Bruce there? Who's this? It's Rusty Humphries. How'd you get this number? Bruce gave it to me. Don't ever call the number again. Click.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And then
who was on the other end?
I don't know. Some housekeeper, maid. I don't know. But
I doubt that.
I mean, I don't know. But I never talked to Caitlyn. And I've actually reached out. I would like to. I like that person. You wouldn't reach out?
Well, I like Bruce. I don't know. I don't know Caitlyn. I'm sorry. I mean, I just don't know her.
Yeah.
It's a total mystery to me. But that's my only experience with something like that. And, it's all I've got to draw on. But I look back at these relationships in Hollywood, and they are very, very superficial. And
so you don't have close, dear friends that you still think of? No.
I have 2 or 3 friends in Hollywood who I still talk to, but they are kind of unrelated in my business. And they're not really show business people.
Is that sad or just that's the way it is?
No, that's life. I mean, it's just the way it is. It's kind of like working for General Foods and you're on the second tier and all your friends are on the second tier trying to get to the first tier, and you get to the first tier and all of a sudden nobody wants to talk to you anymore. It's just, it's just the way it is. People are that way. And I understand it. I don't really hold it against them if you want to know the truth. But I still like the idea of all of the illegals going to Hawaii. I just think that would be just awesome. They're still in the U.S. and they're a long way from home.
Well, then I want to be an illegal. I want to live in Hawaii. That's a nice place.
Well, seriously, I mean, how tough would that be to just, say, okay, we're going to keep you in the U.S., get on this boat, and you're on your way to Hawaii. You're now 3,000 miles away from home. How do you like it?
How do you like us now?
Yeah.
Let's see here. What do we got here?
We got Barb.
Speaking of Hollywood, I want to get down to say, speaking of Hollywood, have you seen that new movie, Unplanned? The abortion movie?
I haven't seen it, but it's a blockbuster, apparently.
It is. It's actually a good movie.
And Twitter kind of did they do a whole thing about, excluding it from Twitter or something? They surprise, right? And there's a story today. Amazon. And we're on Twitter right now criticizing Twitter.
Well, if something happens to the feed, don't be surprised. We've had that problem before. But now Amazon is blocking conservative books. Now, some of them are crazy. I was never an Alex Jones fan, and Alex Jones even testified in court. He's kind of got some issues separating reality from fact. But he shouldn't have been banned. If there's some things on Amazon I don't like, but we don't ban books.
Yes, we do. That's the problem. And this is what's happened with the unfettered press and everything else. We've gotten to the point where Marxists and Marxism, which nobody even understands or explains anymore, their ideas and ideology have basically taken over the left, and the left controls the media. So they decide who speaks and who doesn't. I always loved the left solution to everything. We have to study it. So I just pictured this morning, I'm in the bathroom washing my face and getting ready to shave and everything. I'm thinking, well,
By the way, if you go, damn, I'm handsome. Man, I'm a good-looking man.
I've never done that in my life.
Okay, I'm just curious. Go ahead, sorry.
So I'm in the bathroom getting ready to shave, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, if Democrats study everything, if Russia dropped an H-bomb on New York, would they have to study that before they decide
if it was
how to respond to it? Because all they do is say, we need to study this problem. They study it forever and never do anything, and which is just one of the other reasons they hate Trump so much. He studies it overnight and says, I have a solution. They don't want a solution. They just want to study.
Well, it's like Kirsten Nielsen. She's, now the left is on her side all of a sudden. Have you noticed that?
No.
It's starting, and it's going to be more. You watch. It's starting to come out that Trump got ticked off. He's saying, let's close the border. We're doing it. I'm done. We're done. We're doing it. And she caution, no, you can't do it. And then it got him to back off. And now that's why he fired her. That's one of the reasons. And
I heard one of the reasons was he would ask her to do something. She would say, absolutely. And then a year later, it hadn't been done. So in other words, it wasn't necessarily pushback. She just wouldn't do it. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, because you hear all of these stories come out. Somebody said to somebody, and, you know, these are the sources for the New York Times. I know a guy who knew a guy who said that this guy also had information on that guy over here that you're looking at. And you just go, what? And so it's hard to know what's true and what's not. I love it when and then all the mainstream media try to get into the head of Trump and everyone else. This is what Kristen Nielsen thinks. This is what the American public demands. No, they don't. You ever watch these, not to just jump around here, but
we're jumping.
These congressional hearings are just the American people need to know. The American people don't care. They're off working, most of them. Excuse me. And they really don't care about this stuff. But, you know, according to Democrats and Republicans and all congressional leaders, this is what the American people care about.
What is it today?
People care about the truth. I'll tell you that.
Just the Russian thing today? Oh, no, now it's tax returns again, right?
Well, no. They got Barr in front, and they're actually, I think they've cut some of the funding for the DOJ. And of course, if you cut funding in the capital of our great country, that's like, you know, it's like a cross to the vampire to Democrats. How can you do that when we have all these programs we need to fund? So nobody ever runs on cutting taxes.
Well, and it's never really a cut. It's a cut to growth.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. But most people don't even understand what that is. And I've heard people explain it over and over again. I understand it. You understand it. But most people just don't even get it. They don't understand what that means. Mm-hmm. And that means that if the State Department has $80 billion and they're going to grow by $2 billion next year, they just cut the $2 billion, and that's called cutting growth. It's not cutting taxes or cutting the department or anything else. They take advantage of the First Amendment every day, and people don't know it. We are really living in a time where people are just ignorant, and it's not their fault. Because, I mean, I listened to all the promises that have been made over the last 2 years from, you know, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, ABC, NBC, all the leaders, MSNBC. All of these promises have been made to their listeners and readers, and they were all lies. Mm-hmm. Every one of them. They're proven lies. They still try to, you know, work their way out of this hole they're in. But if I was watching or listening or reading these people, I would drop them like a hot potato. I mean, I want information, not misinformation. And They get their expectations up, and then they dash their hopes, and then they say, well, it's just not. I mean, it's like this Mueller report thing. There's got to be something in there that indicts President Trump. It's not there. But they keep hoping that they can find something. So we have to see everything. It's got to be totally unredacted, which is against the law. And then congressional committees who have the ability to see these things are saying, well, we need to see it. Then they can leak it wherever they want to leak it.
Right.
So it's just insane. In other words, you can never accept the truth for what it is. It must be something else, and it must be investigated until it'll just be investigated.
Unless you're a Democrat.
Well, I know, but, you know, how far can you take this where the American people, speaking of the American people, just look at this and say, stop it. You know, stop this. I may not like Trump. I may not like his style. I may not like anything about it, but stop this. You know, let's get on with the work we need to do and just quit investigating everybody for things that never happen. I mean, this whole Mueller thing, this never happened. And eventually we will get to the bottom of this. I do believe, at least I have certain faith that we will, that the onion will be peeled back and then maybe people will be held responsible. Right. Devin Nunes is trying to hold some people responsible.
He's a good dude.
Including the media.
Yeah.
Well, of course he's a good dude. That's why they go after him so bad. Swalwell and all of these people. By the way, Swalwell's running for president. I was excited to hear that. He's a new flavor of the week. I mean, man, how many people are going to run for president on the Democrats? Everybody thinks they should be president. I'm waiting for Maxine Waters to come out and declare.
Well, I liked Mark. Mark had a pretty good plan a few weeks
Yeah.
ago to run
What's
for
that?
president. He would have been good too. He was going to change his name. Remember, that was good. By the way, where is Mark today? Do you know?
I have no clue. I don't know where he is. He's off doing something that's less important, I'm sure,
Probably.
to us.
Well, I'm probably. It's probably something crazy and expensive.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, is the dog there? Can you introduce us to the new dog?
See, come here, Charlie. Oh, they haven't seen Charlie yet.
No, look at that. Oh.
This is Charlie. He's a little French bulldog who lives with a great big French bulldog at home. My other Frenchie is about 35 pounds. He's a horse. And this little one attacks him all the time, and they have such a great disposition. My big one just kind of, growls at him a little bit and corrects him for being such a little guy. But he's a pistol boy. He really is.
He's a good dog?
So far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so far he's there. They have great temperaments. These dogs. This is the second one I've had. They're just good, little, even tempered. They're not aggressive. Just nice dogs.
How do you find a dog like that?
Online.
Yeah.
Kristen decided that we needed another dog, and so we're sitting there. She's looking through all these dogs, and I go to Puppy Spot, I think it was, and his picture popped up, and I said, "Okay, that's the one."
Really?
And yeah. I mean, literally, there were thousands of pictures, and I just looked at him and went, "He's the one. That's it." But I did the same thing with Bodacious T-Bone. His picture popped up, and
I'm
I
sorry,
said,
his name's what?
"That's the one."
What's his name?
Bodacious T-Bone.
Uh-huh.
He is a French bulldog. So, yeah, he's kind of a Louisiana French. He's Cajun French.
Well, let's take a quick look at some folks. By the way, thanks for watching Blunt Force Truth. My name is Rusty Humphreys. I'm just filling in for Mark Young. He'll be here next week.
You're doing a great job, too, Rusty.
Nah, not really.
Quit
but thank
lamenting
you.
the fact that Mark's not here. You're doing fine.
Thank you. That there is Chuck Woolery. He's a legendary screen and game
Where
show
are you
host.
pointing? You just pointed at your window like I was peeping Tom.
Well, see, it's different. So if I point this way, it looks like
know.
I'm pointing at you. Well, yeah.
I'm
telling
teasing.
Chuck Woolery how to do TV.
Teasing.
I'm it's like, oh, here's a good one. So you're sitting on the set of Wheel of Fortune, and Lucille Ball walks in.
You want to hear this story, really?
Yes, because it's a good
I can't
example
tell you
TV.
all of it because Lucille Ball talked like, as I got to know her, she had the language of a boatswain mate in the Navy, and you can only imagine what that is. I mean, she was really a very interesting woman, but became a very close friend.
Well, and
So
she
I'm
just didn't
doing-
take crap from anybody, right?
Oh man, I think the best story is once I got to know her a little bit. She came by one day. She loved Wheel of Fortune, and she came by, and we were on lunch break, and apparently she was doing a show that night at NBC. So she got me. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to eat lunch." She said, "Well, forget that. Don't eat lunch. Come with me. I want to show you something." And so I left this, dressing room, walked down the hall, and she.
By the way, how old are you at this point, you think?
Probably in my late 30s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lucille
Maybe
Ball
middle
is
30s, middle 30s.
And Lucille Ball is in her.
Oh, she's probably in her late 50s, early 60s. I'm guessing. I don't really know.
All right.
And so anyway, she puts her arm in mine. We walk down to stage 5. I think it was stage 4. And they have these enormous doors where you can just, load semis in the front. And then on each side, there's a little door, just a normal door that you walk in. The crew goes in there usually. And so she opens this little door and she said, "I want you to stand here and watch what happens on stage." And I said, "Lucy, what are you doing?" She said, "Just watch." And she's very impatient with me. And so I stand over there. She walks on stage, and there are about 20 grips in there who are moving things around. They see her.
What's a grip do?
He moves things around. He sets, stages, all of what grips do. They grip stuff.
Grip stuff.
They
and
grip
move
it and they move it.
Okay.
Right. So they all see her, and they literally scatter like rats on a ship. Just bam, they're gone. And I thought, boy, that's interesting. What is that all about? So she walks over to the stage, and there's a little mic hanging down from the stage. She says, "Anybody in the booth?" And you hear this voice go, "Yes, Miss Ball." And the voice in the booth is not happy to see Miss Ball. And so she said, "Well, look, I want to get a monitor down here. Where's my mark?" And he said, "You're in the middle, Miss Ball, and over there where that little T is there. Just walk over and stand on that. That's your mark for tonight." She said, "Okay, well, get some guys in here and bring me a monitor. I want to see something." Yes, ma'am. So she stands on that, and the guys bring it. They keep their head down when they're moving this thing, and no eye contact, nothing. It's like the Queen or somebody you're scared to death of. Move it out, and they set the monitor up, and she's looking at it. She said, "Well, light me up." And so the lighting director comes on. Yes, ma'am. Bam, 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 bam. All these lights come on. She looks at him. Now, keep in mind, I'm off stage watching all of this.
Right.
So all the lights come on, and she goes, yeah. And she looks at the monitor, looks at the lights, looks at the monitor, looks at the lights. Now, understand something, that Lucille Ball and her husband invented the 3-camera show.
Right.
They invented it, okay? They own their own studio. So Desilu Productions. So
which did Star Trek and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Whatever. So she looks up at the booth and says, "Get me what are these? I forget what these big ladders are called, but they go up like 30 feet. They're just giant ladders, and 2 people have to wheel them in." And she said, "Get me a lighting guy out here. I want to start working on these lights." "Oh, yes, ma'am." So they bring this giant ladder out, and she said, "Okay, let's start with the blue gel on the far left." And she starts changing lighting, okay?
Oh, no.
And she goes through this whole thing, and then the guy said, "Is that okay? Do you like it?" She said, "Yeah, hang on just a minute. The key light." Now, key light's the brightest light of all. It's the one that kind of, glows on you from the very center. And she said that key light needs to come down about 4 inches. So he brings it down 4 inches. She looks at the monitor. She looks back up, looks at the monitor, looks back up, and says, "Perfect. Thank you. And I'll see you tonight at 7 o'clock. I'll be right on time. I'll be made up and ready to go. Thank you very much. See you around." So she left. And I meet her in the hallway. She walks up to me and she said, "Did you see what I did in there?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "What did I do?" I said, "Well, I counted. You made 15 lighting changes." She said, No, I made 16, the key light." I said, "Okay, 16 lighting changes." So she said, "Now I've been on the air for like 8 months, okay?"
Right.
She said, "Can you do that?" And I said, "Absolutely not." Well, she said, "You look like crap for the rest of your career." And she walked off and let me stand it. And I didn't see her again for 3 weeks.
Well, and I will tell everybody that Chuck Woolery is a lighting expert. When I went and helped set up that studio, that's where I heard that story, because you really took that to heart, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I did. Yeah, it's how you look and how you sound. That's the most important thing on television anyway, and in radio. It doesn't matter. But
I mean, what's amazing is looking at him, most people don't know this, is you're 96.
That's with a bullet.
You look very good for that. No.
Yeah, that's right.
Give us some comments. Let's do a quick check-in, see how people are responding to the show. Again, I'm Rusty Humphries filling in for Mark Young. Chuck Woolery's here, his Blunt Force Truth. Let's see here. Wake Island has room. Oh, talking about your idea for sending people to Hawaii. Chuck,
I think it's a great idea, don't you?
I do.
Oh, well, it's in the United States. It just takes a ship instead of a bus.
There you go. Guam. Although with Hank Johnson.
Guam's not a state, though.
Well, no, but with
you can send them to Puerto Rico and they all speak the same language. That would be cool. But it's not a state.
Now, the problem with Guam is, of course, Congressman Hank Johnson of Georgia would be concerned because it might tip over. Can you believe people still vote for that guy? He's still in office.
The IQ he must have an IQ of 2. It's just amazing.
I get dumber every time I watch him speak.
I know. But he is Henry Aaron's cousin or something, right?
Is that right? I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I think he married his wife. They're cousins or something. So I think that's where he gets his credentials from. The late Hank Aaron.
All right. Jessup Bob says, "We love you, Chuck. You are a national treasure."
I'll tell you. You want to hear a good Hollywood story?
I would.
Okay. I actually had a confrontation with Steve McQueen.
What?
I'd probably been in Hollywood maybe 3 months. And my girlfriend, who was a movie star at the time, invited me to go to Century City for a charity event.
Hold on. Who's the hot girlfriend?
Well, it was married to her for a while, Joanne Flug.
Oh, okay.
So she invited me to go to this, and I said, okay, and I had a tux, so I was all decked out and ready to go. And so we go to Century City, and we have kind of a little booth that we're watching, the show, and there's all of this stuff going on with this charity event. And I'm sitting there minding my own business next to Joanne and maybe somebody else to her right, and I'm on her left. And Ally McGraw comes up, sits down next to me, and starts talking across to Joanne, across my face. And then she puts her arm around my shoulder and gets very close to me and starts whispering in my ear, which I have no idea what she was saying, and laughing at the same time. And, what would look like heavy flirting, okay?
Huh. And this is back when she was hot.
I'm not opposed to this at all. This is awesome. This is great. And Steve McQueen walks up, sees her, and goes nuts over me. He wants to fight me. And he's, Allie, get out of there. Who are you? And where do you, he's all fired up. And Chad Everett happened to be close. Remember Chad Everett?
I'm blanking.
The actor? He was a doctor on one of the TV series. Now, he's a real good looking guy and a very nice guy. So Chad Everett had seen the whole thing happen. And he's coming in. I don't know Chad Everett that well, but he's trying to protect me, saying, hey, Steve, don't go off on this guy. He was just sitting there minding his own business. And Steve just still, he wants to fight. And so I stood up and, Steve hits me about my waist. And the thing that's remarkable that happened is I stood up and I looked at him and every scene from The Great Escape was going through my mind. I was seeing him jump fences with a motorcycle and throwing the baseball up against the wall and catching it in a glove. I mean, can you imagine? I am so conflicted at this point. I don't know whether to hug him or hit him. So anyway, he finally died down and then he kind of walked away and Allie was on his arm and then she turned around and blew me a kiss, on her way away from me.
Oh, man.
And I thought, so I did have a mild confrontation with Steve McQueen, but I don't know whether he just wanted to fight everybody or not, but
just to kind of prove he was a tough guy.
Yeah, but so here's this guy who I've just, idolized as an actor all this time, and he wants to fight me over something I have nothing to do with it. And I'm trying to appease him and argue with him at the same time. It was losing all the way around.
Other than the
I
news,
met him later and reminded him of it. I was at a producer's house and what was that movie called Tom something that he played this killer who came in to take care of cattle rustlers and stuff, and he was hired by people. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a movie that came out, and I was invited to a showing at a producer's house in Beverly Hills, and he was there, and we sat and talked to him. I said, "Do you remember me?" He said, "Well, you're on TV, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I do a game show, but I'm sure you don't watch that." I was doing Wheel at the time. He said, "No." I said, "Well, you don't have any memory of me at all?" And he said, "No, I don't. I'm sorry. Should I be able to place you somehow?" I said, "Yeah, you should, I guess. I'm the guy you accused of flirting with Ally McGraw." And he looked at me and said, "Oh, my God. Oh, I remember that."
Oh, that's funny.
"I'm so sorry." I said, "That's okay."
Now, other than the classic News Zoo review,
Oh, God.
have you...
My very first job.
I know.
Well, not my first one, my second job. My first one was Superman.
Well, I was going to ask you, were you an actor? You know what's scary is I'm 53 years old. I can still sing the News Zoo Review theme song.
Yeah, I know. That is scary. Because the News Zoo Review, if you were over 3, it was just, beneath you.
It was, Henrietta, and it was classic. Were you much of an actor? Did you do any acting? You did Superman? And did News Zoo Review?
No. I was horrible as Superman, but I kind of looked like him at the time, and that's why they picked me. But
wait, hold on. Don't just skip over Superman. You can't just skip over Superman. What did you do in Superman? What Superman were you?
I was on a cartoon thing on ABC, and we were the live players. There was a Batman, a Superman, and Spider-Man, and something else. And I was the Superman, and I had lines to say and everything else. But I was actually cast at Burt Reynolds' house. This is another thing where my girlfriend knew Burt Reynolds. She was getting ready to do a show with him, invited me to go with her for this rehearsal they were going through. I'm sitting there in my solid whites, watching everybody rehearse, and these 2 guys come up to me who are producing this show that they're doing and said, "Well, he kind of looks like him." Yeah. And I said, "Yeah, can you do a Superman voice?" And I said, yeah. So I went through what the announcer said, not what Superman said. He's perfect. Would you like to be Superman on ABC and on a special? I said, "Yeah, sure." I didn't have a job. Sure. Absolutely. So that's how I was cast at Burt Reynolds' house, oddly enough. And that was that. But
that was, I just hanging out.
In review, I was playing a guy who was 90 years old, riding a tricycle around and acting totally insane. But these were all kind of Jonathan Winter characters that I adopted from my past of being a big fan of Jonathan Winters and his characters, and I kind of adapted them to the things that I was doing. I am not an actor, and I have film to prove it. So, you know.
So that was that something you wanted to do, get into acting, or not really?
I wanted to make money and have a job.
That was
That's
it.
what I wanted. That was it. Yeah. Any way I could.
So did you know Burt Reynolds well?
Oh yeah, I knew Burt real well. Sure.
Did you see the last movie he did? I think it came out last year.
Yeah.
The Last Movie Star.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Oh, I thought it was great. I thought it was one of the greatest things. I thought it was one of the greatest things he ever did.
And I love Burt. I mean, Burt was always great to be around. He was very funny. He had a great, but we had the same thing in common that I did with some people.
That was all the women wanted you guys?
No, he admired Jonathan Winters like I did. I mean, the humor kind of came from Jonathan. So, and Burt was very much into that, and so was I. And so we had that in common. And what happened with Jonathan Winters was you begin to think like Winters if you could imitate any of the things that he did.
I'm going to have to stop you for a second because I don't think a lot of people younger than me
know
who you're talking about.
Well, it's who Robin Williams built his career on.
Yes.
Robin Williams became Jonathan Winters with another step, but that's what he had in common. Mm-hmm. So we all three really had Jonathan Winters in common. He was kind of the nexus of the genesis of our comedy, the way we looked at comedy and funny things in life.
Let's see. Did you know Jonathan Winters?
Jonathan Winters was responsible for my career. So Jonathan cold called me. I had a guy came to Nashville. I was in the music business, and a guy named Jimmy Smith came in town and wanted my friend Dan Hoffman and me to help him. And he'd written some songs, and Dan helped him, and so he went back to Hollywood. Well, I didn't know he was best friends with Jonathan Winters, this Jimmy Smith, and he was kind of an actor. And so within 3 weeks. I didn't know any of this had happened. He'd taken some of my records back with him and apparently played them for Jonathan Winters. And so I get a cold call. Now, understand, through high school, through college, through my younger life and younger years, Jonathan Winters is my hero. I think it's like a lot of people had, what's his name as their hero, any comedian, whoever it was.
Steve Martin at the time, or Eddie Murphy, or
whoever it was. Yeah. And he was kind of mine because I loved the way he thought. It was so bizarre. And so all of a sudden I'm in my apartment in Nashville. I get a call from a guy that says he's Jonathan Winters. And I said, oh, come on, this isn't Jonathan Winters. And he said, yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. Because all my friends know I like him, and they all can kind of imitate him, and we all play around with each other. And so I think it's Larry Henley, the guy who wrote "Wind Beneath My Wings." I think it's Larry Henley putting me on, and Larry Henley of the New Beats as well. So finally, I said, "Is this Larry Henley?" And he said, "No, it's Jonathan Winters."
Dummy. And
I said, "Okay, do Maud Frickert," because I knew Larry Henley couldn't do Maud Frickert, and so. He said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, come on, do a little bit of Maud Frickert, just a little bit." And so he did it, and I said, "Is it?" I said, "Well, that's pretty good." He said, "Well, you do it," and I did it. And he said, "Well, that's pretty good." I said, and I finally realized it was Jonathan Winters, and I was very apologetic. And he said, "That's okay." He said, "Look, this is the reason I'm calling. Do you ever come to Hollywood?" And I said, "Well, okay, I'm recording at RCA on Hollywood and Vine, but I only come in a couple of times a year. And I'm at RCA over there." And he said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, if you ever come in, give me a call and I'll get you on the Tonight Show because Johnny's a real good friend of mine."
Whoa.
I mean, can you imagine? I am living in obscurity at this point in my life. I really am. And I said, "Really?" He said, "Absolutely, Chuck. I'd like to meet you and I'll get you on the Carson Show." So I did go to Los Angeles, and I did go to
the next day.
I didn't know. I went to RCA. I had a scheduled recording at RCA, and so I went there and I did it. And I called him, and he said, "Okay, I will pick you up." He said, "I'll send Jimmy over to pick you up at the studios, and then you can come over." Now, I'd never met Jimmy Smith. Only my writing partner had met him, Dan Hoffman. So Jimmy picks me up. They've never seen me. I have a full beard, and we're going across Lancashire, I guess it is, over into the valley. And Jimmy's not saying very much. And finally I said, "Is something wrong?" He said, "No, not really." And I can tell something's just not quite, when you're with somebody and you just feel like something's not quite right. So we go to Marie Callender's over in the valley where Jonathan's
Going
hanging
fancy.
out at the fireplace, at the pie place. So we get out of the car and I said, "Are you sure there's not something that's, that's bothering you with me?" And he said, "Look, Chuck, you seem like a nice guy." He said, "But Jonathan's not going to like you." And I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "You have a beard." And I said, "Are you kidding?" He said, "No, I'm not kidding." He said, Jonathan's, his son, Jay, they're not getting along, and Jay has a beard. So he figures everybody has a beard just like Jay, and he's just not going to like you right away.
Oh.
And I'm crushed. I am really, because I don't know what to do. I don't have a razor handy. I'd shave it off. So we walk into Marie Callender's, and I can see Jonathan way back past the pies and in a little booth, and he's entertaining a waitress. And she's laughing, and he's laughing, and we walk by, and then he said, "Hey, Jimmy, how you doing? Sit down." And Jimmy said, "Well, this is Chuck Woolery." And he said, "Oh, Jimmy, let me tell you, ask you something." He just completely ignored me. He took one look at me and just absolutely ignored me. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? I mean, Jimmy was right. And so I'm very nervous. I'm standing for a good minute and a half. It seems like 10 hours waiting for my hero to acknowledge the fact that I'm even there. And finally I broke in with Elwood P. Suggins, which was one of his characters from Bellbrook, Ohio. And I said, "Hey, Mr. Winters, I just wondered, I was over here with my wife and some friends. We're from Elkhart, Indiana, and I was wondering if you could just give me your autograph or something." He said, "Well, is that all you want?" I said, "Well, no, I could take anything you give me. You have a folding knife or a billfold?" And he thought that was funny. And so he said, "Who in the hell are you, really?" I said, "I'm Chuck Woolery." I said, I'm the bearded Chuck Woolery. I'm sorry. And he said, "Well, sit down." And so we hit it off right away after that. And so I broke it using his own character. I broke the ice, and we became close friends. He took me on the Tonight Show. Yes, I did shave my beard off. And
now you've had a beard since then. Why did you not learn your lesson?
I don't know. So anyway, I did the Tonight Show. Merv Griffin happened to see that show, and Merv Griffin got in touch with my publisher, who was Al Gallico in New York at the time, and said, "Where was I?" And he said, "Well, he's in Nashville, Tennessee." And he said, "Well, do you think he would come out and do my talk show?" And he said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, have him come out." So I came out, and as a singer, I went on Merv Griffin's show about 3 weeks later, and sang my song and went over and sat on the couch. I was one of the first. I may have been the first one up, because the next guy who was up was Billy Crystal, who was just starting off.
Oh, wow.
And Billy Crystal was back there doing Muhammad Ali and all that kind of stuff. And he was very funny. And he came down and sat on the couch with me. And I sat Merv would have you sit on the couch for the whole show. And so I sat there for an hour while these people came on that I admired. And at the end of the show, everybody left. And Merv Griffin turned to me, and I started to walk away, and he said, "Hey, hang on just a minute. I've got some men back in my office I'd like for you to meet." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I walked back there with him, and I remember he reached for the door handle, and he looked at me, and he said, "Do you ever think about being a game show host?" And I said, "No, not really." And the first thing that went through my mind, a game show host, a guy with a bad mustache and equally bad jacket, cares nothing about what you have to say, which was kind of like what game show hosts were like back then.
Wink Martindale wasn't like that.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I didn't say that, of course. I just said, no, I never thought of that. So I came in, sat down. He said, we're putting together a show. Here's the deal. Jeopardy still has an hour or a year left on its contract, and NBC is kind of taking it off the air. So they owe us another pilot. So we're trying to come up with a show for another pilot. Would you like to do the pilot to this next show? And I said, yeah, do you know what it is? And he said, well, not yet. And he said, we're calling it Sharper's Bazaar right now. And so I said, sure. So I had no idea what I was doing, and I guess he knew it because I didn't have a clue. So I went in and stayed at the Roosevelt Hotel and walked across the street every day to the Griffin, places, and ran through the show with a chalkboard and a table and a bunch of kids in the office, and then I did the pilot. The pilot didn't go yet. Then NBC, they came back and they got, who was the guy who did, what was his name? He did Kooky, Lend Me Your Comb back in the 50s. What was the name of that guy? Anyway, he did the pilot for Wheel of Fortune. So when they saw the pilot, they said, we really don't really don't want Kooky to do the show, but we kind of like that guy, that first guy. What was his name? That Chuck Woolery guy. We liked the way he did it. So maybe he could do the pilot to this one or do the original 13 weeks. So I had 13 weeks. Well, I was so soured by that time. I didn't want to do it. And I was living in L.A. by that time.
Why were you soured?
I just, it just kind of went sour on me. They didn't like me, and I figured they didn't like the pilot. They didn't like what I did. And
okay.
So I just kind of went, I'll do something else. I didn't want to be a game show host anyway.
Yeah.
So it didn't really, I wasn't being nasty. I just really had no intention of ever being a game show host. So I'm at a guy's house who's very powerful as a friend. And his name is Jerry, oh God, Jerry Parencio. Jerry Parencio he was the founder of Univision and all this other stuff. He was a very powerful guy. So he's over there with a bunch of his friends who are producers and record producers and everything else. And I know some of them. And I'm saying, I just don't think I'm going to do this thing at NBC. And Jerry and two other guys got me in a corner, basically, and said, are you out of your mind? This is you have 13 weeks guaranteed work, and you're going to turn it down? Are you insane? If it doesn't go, it doesn't matter. You'll be able to make 13 weeks worth of income, Chuck, and be exposed. So don't be stupid. They just made me feel like an idiot. And so I called NBC and said, okay, I'll do it. And that was Wheel of Fortune, and that was where I got my start. And it was the number one show for, the 7 years I did it, and remained to be number one all these other years.
Wow.
So that's how my career came into being, and I can thank Jonathan Winters for taking me on the Tonight Show to start it all.
That's
my
awesome.
Hero. How often do you get your hero to set you up?
Career. Have you been? There's a little cemetery in Hollywood behind a movie theater. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Where it is. My father-in-law is buried there. My father-in-law was David Nelson, and he's buried there, and along with Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe and Merv is there. And do you know what it says on his tombstone?
I'll be back in, I don't know.
It says Merv Griffin. I won't be back after these messages.
After these messages. Yeah. I'm going to just say I'll be back in 2 and 2.
Are you going to do that?
No, I'm sure I won't, because somebody else will do it for me, I'm sure. My wife would never stand for that.
All right, let's see here. Some nice comments here. Chuck Woolery is here. It's Blunt Force Truth. I'm Rusty. I was just filling in for Mark Young, who will be back next time. Let's see here. Did he say late Hank Aaron? Is Hank Aaron passed?
Maybe he hasn't. Okay. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not really sure. I did say late Hank Aaron. I could be wrong.
Let's see here. Heather.
I've been wrong before.
You? No. Heather says, I love Lucy. Corey says Lucy could do anything she wanted.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. Carrie said, great show, American Flag and Heart. Chuck, were you a World War II veteran? Michael.
No, I'm not that old. I was a veteran of the Cuban crisis on the USS Enterprise. I was on the first I'm a plank owner on the first nuclear aircraft carrier the United States ever built was the USS Enterprise, which is still in service today after all these years.
Is that right? Now, was Captain Kirk your captain?
No, Captain Dupois was my captain. I had a French captain. I'd like some Grey Poupon. Let's invade Cuba.
Yeah. Kilroy says, don't ever change, Chuck. We need to hear the truth. Ms. DeVille says, I remember Chad Everett. I'm old.
There you go. Yeah, Chad Everett was a handsome guy, real handsome, good actor.
Do you think he's
still around, still acting today?
Do you think he did what I think you do? Damn, I'm good looking.
He should. He was a great-looking guy, and he's still good-looking today, all these years later. Yeah.
Let's see here. Michael says, "Why are there comments? They don't read them." I don't do them all the time. We read them sometimes. As a matter of fact, now's a great time. We got about 5 minutes left in the show, and if you want to do comments, now's a great time. Give us some hearts too, and make sure you share the video, share the podcast, let people know. Even though it's not good because I'm on it this week, it is a good show normally. So.
Yeah. And it's not filled with all Hollywood stuff. This may have been a mistake for me to tell all these Hollywood stories. Wait a minute. I'm not so sure that people are that fascinated by all this stuff. People have been asking me for years to write a book and everything else. I went, I'm not going to write a book about meeting John Wayne and Lucille Ball and all these people and Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. I've got stories about all of them, but so does everybody else in Hollywood. It's not that unique, I guess. Just from my perspective.
It's fun.
Well, okay.
It's
No, I'll
fun.
give you
And
that. It
you-
was
and
fun
you-
for me.
and you-
It was fun for me to meet these people. It really was. I was a fan too.
And that's what I think is great about. I mean, do we got to talk about the Mueller report every day? Right?
Yeah,
and we got to talk about
pretty
illegal
much.
immigration every day. AOC every day. I mean, come on. I'd love to hear about
Well, this was
Lucy every
this
once
is
in a
certainly
while.
a little bit of a diversion away from the daily politics.
I got to have her. Or I'm going to kill myself. I mean, it's just I can't take it anymore. It's crazy. I shouldn't say it that way, but you know what I mean. It's just it's crazy out there. I get tired of it. I don't know.
Well, it's the news has gotten us to the point where we feel like we have to watch, and then we're misinformed, and then we feel like we get angry. And I'm not sure what the Democrats are angry because they've lost this battle that they waged, and they could never have won it because the things that they accused Trump of never happened. So, but the people who are watching them don't know that. I don't think they really understand it, because it's like there's a lot of things that are happening that people who watch mainstream media never hear about. They don't know that they're happening because the mainstream media refuses to say anything in a good light about things that are. I mean, we're living in an economy we've never seen the likes of, but they would convince you that there are so many people who are not being helped by this economy, and they've got all these little stories to completely blow it out of the water. When we lived in this horrible economy for 8 years under Obama with no growth, and here we have this explosion of growth, and because of Trump is who he is, they just will not tell you the story, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
Let's see here. Joe says it's good to get away from politics sometimes. Ms. DeVille says, I always enjoy hearing these old Hollywood stories. Mons says,
some of those I've never told before, actually.
well, you should tell more.
The one with Steve McQueen, I've never ever told before.
Why?
I just happen I forget a lot of them, and that one I'd forgotten. And so what happens is there's so many little nuanced incidences that happened in my past that I thought were like, incidental. They didn't really matter that much. And then I start thinking about it. I'm thinking, well, who else can say this?
Right.
And so that was one that came up. I don't know how it came. I think I was watching a car auction, and one of Steve McQueen's motorcycles came across, and it prompted me to remember that story. And so, but I haven't talked about that ever until the last 2 weeks, I guess.
Huh.
And so I guess there are a lot of things that, Mark remembers a lot of them because I've told him, but I forget them.
I think part of it is strange that the younger generation doesn't seem to have any interest in either history of the country, politics, or even history of Hollywood. Like, for example, when I was a young kid growing up, we'd have Gilligan's Island on every day, and the Brady Bunch, and the Partridge Family, and then Happy Days was on. So I learned about the 50s and those kind of things. Today's generation couldn't give a rat's about anything that I watched growing up.
Well, but I kind of understand that happens. Socrates talked about the younger generation. This has been going on forever. So I get that. They're not interested. They're interested in what they're doing today.
No, there's only one thing they're interested in. It's their phone.
Well, that's a time we live in. Whatever that's good, bad, or indifferent doesn't matter. It is a fact. And I was talking to Kristen the other day, and she said, I was looking around my restaurant, and she seats, I don't know how many people, 65, 70.
It's a big barbecue restaurant.
Yeah, 65, 70 tables.
Right.
And so,
and they're big, like picnic tables. They're huge.
She said, I'm looking around the restaurant, and it's full of people. And I'm talking to my crew and my daughter, and I said, watch everybody. Watch what they're doing. And everybody at every table was on their phone. And she said, it's just sad. People don't really communicate with each other anymore unless you have a device in your hand. Mm-hmm. And I said, yeah, but what are you going to do about it? That's the way it is. And she said, no, but, so you can't discourage it.
I don't see how this ends well.
And it's not a generational thing. Everybody does it. Mm-hmm. People my age do it. People your age do it. People kids' age do it. I mean, they all do it. So it's a phenomena that, good, bad, or indifferent, we're going to have to live with it. I mean, it's one thing to have your culture invaded. And that's what's happening a lot with this whole multiculturalism and everything else. They're trying to change the demographics of America. And people who don't understand that then just don't understand anything, I don't think. But when you start changing the culture of America through technology, which is happening, and it remains to be seen whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, what AI is. And I mean, look, here we are on Twitter right now. Here we are doing a podcast right now. I'm not a radio guy, but I'm getting my message out as I see it as a conservative. I'm getting it out on Twitter as I see it. Well, I never had these platforms to work with before, so I think that's a good thing. If they shadow ban me, if they block me, if they do whatever they do, fine. But at least I have an opportunity to express what I think, whether people want to hear it or not. And so does everyone else. So, there are advantages.
That's an advantage. The problem is when they've taken it too far, and now they make it so that people don't get heard.
I go back to a time, honest to God, folks, I go back to a time when we had party lines. I was in Ashland, Kentucky, and you'd get on the phone, you'd want to call the hospital, okay?
Hi.
And someone would be talking on the phone because they were part of your party line. And you would have to say, Mrs. Fiddler, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but could you get off the phone so I can make a call? It's kind of important right now. What? I don't want to get off the phone. I said, please, it's an emergency. Then they'd argue with you and yell at you because you wanted to get on the phone. So, things progress, and that's just the way it is. It's good.
I remember that. That was near the, I remember that.
I had 5 people on our party line.
You're
5
kidding.
people. So when I went to the phone, hardly anybody was not on their phone somewhere, and you could hardly ever get in.
Although you had to do it at nighttime or else you get charged extra.
That's true, too. Yeah. So a lot of good things.
Chuck, I don't know about anybody else. I had a great time, and I really appreciate it.
Are we finished already? I had a good time, too. Thanks.
I mean, again.
Kind of walking down memory lane here.
We can sit and talk politics, and you're going to do that with Mark next week. Yeah. And you guys are going to analyze things, and you do a great job. But sometimes
I hope everybody
enjoyed
take a break. The show today. A little bit different. Kind of went off the normal track that we are on, and I hope it didn't bore everybody.
No.
I wasn't bored by it. It was kind of fun for me.
It was fun. Now, by the way, if I had a hat,
yeah,
I would go to Blunt. If I didn't, I don't have a hat. I need a hat. Do you have a hat?
No, I don't have a hat.
Pretend I have
I don't carry props with me. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on. They made you hoe yourself out on Wheel of Fortune, didn't they?
No. We didn't. I didn't do that. Charlie O'Donnell did that.
Okay, I'm Charlie O'Donnell. I'm Rusty O'Donnell today. Go to bluntforcetruth.com, get the hat, get the T-shirt, get the mug. Do you have we
got a new T-shirt coming out that has a picture of Robert Mueller on it, and it says, I investigated Trump for 2 years, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That I would buy.
If that's not there, it's on its way.
That I like. Let's see here. You must be old as me. I remember all those people you're talking about. Let's see here. I don't much watch anything on TV. It's $250 to watch a month. I'm enjoying the show today, Chuck. Chuck, you're the best game show host ever. Nice to see you this morning. Chuck, you're the man. Home. Who's your favorite movie star from Love God USA?
Today, I don't really know. There's so many people that I like and enjoy that are in movies and stuff. I really do. I have a lot of male and female people that I like a lot. And I'm not going to go through the litany because I can't really name everybody. And I'm not trying to dodge the question. It's just that I
Okay.
I can't, Kevin Costner. I think Kevin Costner is way underrated. I think, what's his name? See, that's another thing. You get to be 78 years old, and all of a sudden, your memory just becomes much when you start to think of names.
Okay, as a guy that's in good shape for 78, what do you think of? I mean, Bernie Sanders is the same age as you, and so is Joe Biden, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
How does that make you feel?
Really great when I look at them.
I mean, but does it make you think that? Yeah, I mean, from being honest, that's not.
Oh no, being young or feeling young and all that kind of stuff is literally a state of mind. You either. I've had people who try to convince me that I was old, and I don't feel that old because I don't think old. I think younger. Now, I may not be able to remember everything, but when I was 35, I couldn't remember everything either. So that's not a new phenomena. But it's age is kind of a state of mind. It's also a state of physics. Your physical well-being as well. I'm not as well as I used to be, but I'm okay. I can still get along. I'm still ambulatory, however you say that word. I was talking with Chris, and we were having lunch the other day, And we were talking about skiing. And when I started skiing when I was in my late 30s, which was way too late to start, but I became, really an expert skier. Now I can't ski anymore because I don't have the legs for it. It takes all legs. And so I can't do it anymore. And she can. And so certain things happen where you have to give up sports and stuff that I used to do all the time. I used to windsurf all the time. Can't do that anymore either. But, it's the way it is.
Yeah. All right.
I can still talk, still write. I've become very investigative in my older age. I'm starting to look back on history and try to understand and put it together, understand why we think the way we think, what's happening to us. And I think that's really important. But I've given myself my whole lifetime to come to this point. I never did it until the last probably 8 or 9 years. So that's the way it is. And I'm sure maybe most young people won't be that inquisitive until they get older as well. And some are. Yeah. Some are really bright. I mean, some of these younger men and women who are out there today talking about politics and where we're going, some of them are brilliant. They're really, really smart. And then some of them just toe the liberal line.
Yeah. But, I knew this one kid. He used to send me columns when he was 14 years old, and we used to talk, and I helped him out. And then he kind of wrote this book, and I helped him with his book. And now Ben Shapiro.
Oh, yes. Well, Ben's very, very smart. The only problem is he talks like a machine gun is going off out of his mouth, and it's very hard to follow him.
That's just how he always has been.
But right. But he's very smart.
He's a good dude. All right, Chuck, I guess that's it.
Well, thanks, everybody, for listening today. I hope I didn't completely bore you.
You didn't bore
Rusty,
anybody. It's my fault.
Thank you for coming along and being a part of this. We really appreciate it since Mark couldn't make it. So, folks, tune in next Tuesday. We'll be right here, and tune in to bluntforcetruth.com, and we'll be there for you, too. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
see you next
Bye-bye.
time.